I welcome you back to my channel. My name is Dr. Herb, John Herb, and today we're gonna grow some weed. Yeah! My goal for this channel is to find easy and efficient way to grow weed. To find the best way to grow weed, I need to try different strains, methods, and techniques. This is why, for my second grow, I decided to go with autoflowers. For those who don't know, autoflowers do not require you to change the light cycle. They will start flowering on their own, hence the name, autoflowers. Just because somebody told me that freebies are usually shit and half of them don't even germinate, I went with 3 freebie seeds that are Northern Lights XXL by Secret Grower Society, Gelato by Fast Buds, and King's Juice from the Greenhouse Seeds. My first goal would be to myth-bust freebie seeds don't germinate. To germinate seeds, I'm not gonna use the humidity dome. This time I'm using simple plastic cups that are approximately 500 milliliters or 17 ounces. I will cut 3 small holes on the bottom of each cup to allow excess water to escape, avoiding overwatering and potential root rot problems. To ensure the best start of your young cannabis sprouts, I will use fresh soil media out of the bag. This mix contains 5% of premixed organic fertilizer and worm castings, which will fulfill the nutrient needs. This bag costs around 20 euros for 50 liters, but I'm only using 1.5 liters at the moment. I'm filling cups all the way as the fresh media is very fluffy and airy. It will settle down and compress after a few waterings. Speaking about waterings, I will pre-moisten the soil with the regular tap water. I'm using around 5% of water, that is about 25 milliliters for a 500 milliliter cup. And instead of just pouring water on top, I will use spray bottle to spray the topsoil. This will prevent water from sliding through the media and leak out of the bottom. To start the germination process, I will poke teeny tiny little holes that are no deeper than a pinky nail. Then I will drop seeds in those holes and cover them with a little bit of soil. I will give each cup yet another 5 squirts of water to make seeds a bit more wet, as they are so close to the topsoil and the topsoil dries first. Seeds hit the soil for the first time on Saturday, and today is already Wednesday. So it took 4 full days for the seeds to break through the soil, but good news, all 3 seeds successfully germinated. I think it is safe to say that myth that free seeds do not germinate is busted. Free seeds can also germinate with a 100% success rate, trust me bro. First week of any plant's life is the most important, as it is the easiest to damage or even kill your plant. As they mature, plants will strengthen and get more resilient to stress. But for now, it is still very easy to kill them with your kindness. And by that, I do mean over-fertilization and over-watering. I will not add any fertilizer to the small cups, as the soil battery is already charged with enough nutrients for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Bro should also consider that young plants do not have a well-established root system, so they do not require a lot of water neither. During the first 7 days, I only watered my girls once, 5% or 25 milliliters. It is a regular tap water and I did not dechlorinate it, I didn't measure pH or ppms, and my girls still look healthy and strong. The second week started with one of the seedlings toppled over under its own weight and due to the soft and weak stem. I cannot imagine it can kill a plant. Most probably she would just continue to grow like this. I should probably let one of my seedlings lay like this in one of my upcoming runs, in the name of bro science, of course. I want to know if they will survive and, who knows, maybe even get up on their own. As of now, I want all of my plants to be more or less equal size. In order to support young seedling, I took a piece of metal wire and made a loop at one end with 90 degrees bend. It will help the seedling to stand straight until the support is no longer needed. On day 12, I took my girls for a drink again. Just like the last time, I gave them only 25 milliliters each, or 5% of a cup volume. And still, I only use my spray bottle. When sprayed, water is being absorbed much more efficient and does not run off. I do have an automated watering system, but I decided to opt out and do everything by hand to prove it can be very easy and very cheap to grow the first batch. My goal is to grow quality wheat in efficient and low-cost manner. I would say that the bare minimum equipment that you need to grow indoors is lights. All plants require lights for photosynthesis. This is when they convert photosynthetic active radiation combined with nutrients into energy to grow. The best source of lights is, of course, the sun. Plants were growing for thousands of years under the sun, and they needed no bar meter and no fancy LED lights. The sun is free, and if you have an open and sunny spot, you set yourself for success. To lower the cost of my run, I control the power of the lights. Since my girls have germinated, I was steadily increasing power of my lights. Right after germination, young seedlings do not require to be blasted with 100% power from a close distance. Modern LED lights come with manufacturer recommendation, but I stick to my own plan. Germination to day 7, seedlings are under only 10% of power. Week 2, they chill under 25%, and days 15 to 21, plants bathe on warmth of 50%. I do not move my lights at all. Slow and steady increase of the light power helps cannabis plants to adjust to light output and reduces stress and chances of burning, as well as it helps me to save some money on the electricity bill, of course. Step 1. New home. As mentioned earlier, I'm chasing low-cost practices without sacrificing on quality department. This is the reason you see old 5-gallon pots from Chocolate Haze Run and brand new 10-gallon pots. I want to reuse my soil. Despite my best efforts, soil is still very dry and barely alive. I cannot risk putting my 3-week-old plants in it. I will drop 5-gallon pots upside down into 10-gallon pots and shake all the soil out. I'm usually too lazy to clean, so it will be the cleanest way to transfer soil from one pot to another. The old soil will end up in the bottom, and I will cover it with fresh media out of the bag. This is where previously purchased 50-liter bag comes into play. Now I have 3 10-gallon pots that I plan to reuse many years to come. Step 2. Transition. To ensure stressless transplant, I will be using mycorrhizae. You do not have to buy it, as it might be fairly costly, but I have used it for many years now. When repotting my tomatoes, peppers, and other house plants. Pro tip: turn off all of your fans before apply any powdered substance in your garden. Whether it's mycorrhiza or fertilizer, you want it to be in your soil, not in your lungs. I will prepare 1 small scoop of magic root powder before I actually take plants out of the pot. It is much easier to do with 2 hands. It is time to dig out a small hole with my hands and put the cup into it to have cup's soil level match the fabric pot soil level. I will push the soil around the cup so it's sitting there snug. When you pull the cup out, it will have a perfect match hole. For the root ball to let go of the cup, I lightly press on the sides of the cup. Then I will place my hand on top of the cup with the stem between the fingers and turn the cup upside down. I'm a bit surprised to see that roots did not take over the whole cup yet. Plants could have easily spent another week there. Then the roots will be holding to a soil a bit better. Soil also seems to be a bit dry. I will spray it from all the sides so mycorrhizae is sticking a bit better. I will apply the magic root powder on the root ball as well as I will powder the inside of the hole. The last manure and the plants are in their new homes. It will take them a couple of days to figure out they are in a new home. Step 3. Add water. To improve overall health and soil biology, I will add seaweed extract. It is another product that I had for several years now and was successfully applied to my balcony vegetable garden as well as houseplants. Seaweed extract contains a lot of minerals, vitamins, and microbes that are very beneficial to plants. Second ingredient for the plant cocktail is Alpha Boost. It is yet another free sample from the Cannabis Expo. Alpha Boost increases yield, accelerates growth, reduces stress, and so on and so forth. At least that's what they say on their website. It is time to put spray bottle away. I will need a watering can. Big pots will need more than 25 milliliters of water. Bro tip: get yourself a watering can with a long and narrow nozzle. The bigger the nozzle is, the faster you water. But fast watering will lead to water slide through the soil without being absorbed. So all the nutrients and additives that you added to your water will end up on your spill tray, or even worse, on the floor of your tent. It is also a good idea to water around the root ball to encourage roots to go and explore. And that's it. Simple steps to give your plants a housing upgrade that they deserve. My girls are only 4 weeks old at this point. They have just changed their home and going through settling period. Unfortunately, the weather is not playing along, and the temperatures dropped significantly. It will definitely add to the stress that plants are going through. It is worth mentioning that I'm running my lights during the night. In order to reduce swings of temperature and humidity, I check the weather app when it is the warmest and coldest periods of the day in the area where I live. The warmest period of the day outside is a night period in my tent. And when it's cold outside, I want my lights to be on and increase temperature inside of the tent. This week, I also increased light intensity to 75%. It will increase ppfd, but also temperature a bit. Lower leaves of my plants are signaling that something is wrong. Usually, yellowing of the lower leaves means nitrogen deficiency. There are already premixed nutrients in the fresh media, but it will take some time for those nutrients to break down and for plant roots to stretch and reach those nutrients. So to further reduce the stress on my plants, I will give them yet another liter of regular tap water with some liquid nutrients. It is not 100% necessary, as I'm sure that plants will start growing vigorously in about a week or two when they fully settle down. But since I'm growing autoflowers, I want to make sure they have all needed nutrients at all times. At the beginning of week 5, I noticed that something changed about my plants. Tiny little white tentacles were growing out of the nodes of King's Juice, as well as Gelato. These 2 plants started to flower. Northern Lights on the other side was still vegging. If I want to train my girls, I need to do it now. So what is topping? Topping is basically the progress of trimming the uppermost growth to promote fuller, bushier growth. Topping will distribute plants' energy from one main branch to multiple lower branches. Generally, it is neither recommended to top plants in flowering stage nor to top autoflowers at all. And here I am doing both. I'm holding the main stem while bending the top until it snaps. I'm training all three plants to maximize my growth space. To see the results of topping, let's jump from day 29 to day 34. On the day 34, I noticed the large fan leaves are covering smaller branches. I want to promote the growth of those branches. That is why I will remove only those leaves that are acting as an umbrella. Now, smaller branches will get more light and they will grow stronger. Overall, I'm removing only 4 leaves, but even that opened the canopy for more light and air circulation. Do you see how topping affected the growth? Main stem now splits into 2. I will proceed with removing a couple of leaves on other plants too, but only the ones that are necessary. You see, leaves are acting as solar panels that absorb light and convert it into energy through photosynthesis. The more solar panels you have, the more energy you can get. Removing leaves can also stress plants. This is why I prefer to leave as many leaves as possible. And now let's talk about fertilizer. I'm using yet another free sample from Cannabis Expo. It is a liquid organic fertilizer from Atami brand. I'm eager to challenge myself and my grow to see if it's even possible to finish the grow using only 4 small 100 ml tester bottles. This tester kit consists of 522, 224, and 144, as well as supplemental organic CalMag. Considering that all 3 plants are scheduled to finish within 10 weeks after germination, I will be using 4 milliliters of each fertilizer once per week per plant. That will equal to 8, 8, 10. If my calculations are correct, and trust me bro, they are correct. I am a bro scientist after all. I will run out of the nutrients right before harvesting plants, which is absolutely perfect. Topsoil is a bit dry, so I will be extra careful while watering. When I see water pooling on top of the soil, I will pause and let the water get absorbed before pouring even more on top. Just like a dry sponge, soil will absorb water better and more efficient when slightly moist. And once again, I'm using my regular tap water. I neither measure pH before nor after mixing all of the nutrients. I do not measure ppms of the nutrient solution, and I water without any runoff. My girls have been transplanted, trained, and fertilized. They seem to be loving life and growing healthy. At least that's what I thought. While King's Juice and Gelato are already flowering, Northern Lights is still in veg. Typically, plants need at least 7 weeks in final flowering stage. That means no way that Northern Lights will be done in 10 weeks since germination like it was suggested on the website. And to make things even worse, I noticed that leaves on the plant are a bit droopy. Being the biggest plant by size, I'm not surprised that Northern Lights will need the most amount of water. This is why I increased frequency of watering. Week 6, I watered all 3 plants 3 times with 1 liter of water per plant each time. Since the recent temperature drop, I'm very careful with watering, as it is so easy to give too much and drown your plants. During hot summer months, water evaporates from fabric pots and from topsoil much faster. Your plants might need more water, not because they drink so much, but because they don't get to drink everything that you give them. But when the temperature is on the downtrend, it is useful to keep in mind that plants actually might need a little bit less. Despite that, I still increased watering amount by 50%, from 2 liters during the week 5 to 3 liters during the week 6. As a grower, I strive to create the best environment for my garden. Since decrease in temperature, I have started running dehumidifier in my long room. It can pull up to 12 liters of water a day from the air. To further reduce my costs, I will be watering my plants with dehumidifier water once I have enough. Despite colder temperatures, my plants still growing strong. In fact, they grew so big and tall, and they no longer fit into GoPro's frame. After I moved my GoPro, it seems that the air from the fan in the corner is shaking tense walls. That's created the shaky image. Documenting your grow is super important, as by analyzing the footage of plants, I can determine why the damn droopy leaves are back again. Maybe it is cold weather after all, or maybe even light intensity that is too high. To find out an answer to this question, I will need more data. I do not open my tent every day, but rather every other day. And also once a week, I open it up for the deep examination, but also in order to download the footage from GoPro. Every week, I examine footage from the previous week and try to spot any trends or any changes. This gives me more accurate information. Both King's Juice and Gelato are looking awesome and in full bloom. Northern Lights, on the other hand, is still struggling. In fact, this week was absolutely horrible for the plant. It barely raises its leaves toward light, and if that is not enough, it is all happening as Northern Lights is finally started its flowering stage. Week 8, I watered plants 6 times. Northern Lights received 8 liters of water, while King's Juice and Gelato only 6. But despite my best efforts, the plant does not seem to respond well to more watering. I even lifted all pots to check the weight. This is another way to estimate how dry or how wet your soil is. Pots feel pretty light for the size, but I jumped from 2 liters watering to 3 liters to 8 liters, and it's a bit drastic for my taste. That's why I decided to decrease light intensity. If I don't solve the issue now and stun the plant during first weeks of flower, it will drastically impact the end result. I have also examined Gelato and King's Juice. They are fairly small plants with very tight internodal spacing. The canopy is so thick in the middle, I'm afraid that it will attract pests and diseases. I will have to do something about it. Either another round of defoliation, or I will need to open up the plants by pulling branches outwards. LST or low stress training is a technique that I will apply to change my plant's growth structure for them to breathe freely. My King's Juice Auto goes from this to this. Do you see how lower buds now have more light exposure? LST's best friend is gardening wire. This came for free with pots.
so that's convenient. To apply LST, all you need is a piece long enough to connect your branches to pot's side. I will gently wrap the wire around the big outside branch and pull it through one of the holes on the side of the pot. This is very important, to pull your branches very gently and slowly. I have seen way too many people on YouTube breaking their branches clean off. At this stage of flowering, I'm not willing to take any risks of losing some of my top buds. And now, back to the time-lapse. Northern Lights still look awful. Despite my best intentions, this plant looks like it might not pull through. What can be an issue here? I know it's not watering. I know it's not environment, otherwise all my plants will be affected. I noticed that Northern Lights Auto is lime green. Gelato and King's Juice have much darker and deeper color of green. Yellow in leaves sounds like nitrogen deficiency. And it would make sense that the biggest plant is pulling the most nutrients out of the soil. And since I have fed all plants equally, this is the biggest plant that goes hungry first. I will have to address this issue the next time I'm performing weekly gardening maintenance. I'm turning my fan off, and if you haven't been watching my channel, you know, it's time to fertilize. I'm gonna be applying, yeah, you guessed it, yet another free sample from Cannabis Expo. This time, it's an organic fertilizer by Greenhouse. It is a 50-gram sample of BioGrow 724, meaning it has 7% of nitrogen, 2% of phosphorus, and 4% of potassium. Recommendation on the package states that you need to use 3 grams per liter of substrate. However, this is only 50-gram package, and that's all that I got. I will simply dump the content of the packet on top of the soil and gently massage it into topsoil. The last step is watering. Organic fertilizers need time and water in order to break down and be available for plant. This is why it is so important to water slowly. Topsoil must remain wet in order for the plant to be able to absorb those nutrients. And now let's switch our focus to King's Juice. Look closely, even more closely. Yes, you see, those tiny little white dots, those are trichomes. It is impossible to see with naked eye the color of the trichomes. That's why I'm going to be using jeweler's loupe. Let's try to make some conclusions from the shots that I took with my phone through the jeweler's loupe. Most of the trichomes appear to be milky white, and some of them are still clear. However, I do not see any amber trichomes whatsoever. That leads me to believe that this plant is almost ready for harvest. Knowing that the King's Juice has 1 or 2 more weeks, I decided to give it a heavy defoliation. My goal here is to remove all the big fan leaves. If I see the stem of the leaf, I will remove it. This will open up the plant even more for airflow as well as for lights, so that all of the buds that were previously covered by leaves now gonna have sun exposure. And now let's jump back to the time lapse. There is an opinion going on YouTube that if you wet trim your flowers, it can heavily influence the taste and the smell of your plant. That is why I'm doing the heavy defoliation now, a week or two in advance before the harvest, so the plant still have time to recover. 7 to 14 days is a plenty of time for the plant to produce new terpenes and flavonoids. Surprisingly enough, Northern Lights already looks so much healthier and doesn't seem to be dying at all. I don't think that's the fertilizer that I have just applied. It usually takes at least a week or even two for the nutrients to be available. But the plant looks much healthier, so I'll take it. Week 11 is here and my girls look awesome. Northern Lights Auto seems to be slowly recovering. Gelato is ripening, pistil hairs are turning colors and will be ready to be harvested soon. And King's Juice is waiting to be chopped. Since King's Juice is done, I will no longer give it any nutrients. At the end of their life cycle, cannabis plants stop taking resources from the soil and use everything that is left in its leaves. This is when the fade comes in. I also give plant less water to kickstart drying phase. I'm happy that at least one of Autos is done. I was calculating nutrient consumption based on 10 weeks lifetime. It is now week 11 and Northern Lights will need at least another 4 weeks to finish. So all of the nuts that I don't use for King's Juice will be used for Northern Lights to support it until the end. But something tells me even that is not going to be enough. You see, Northern Lights started to develop brown, burned-looking spots on her leaves. She's still very hungry and demands more food. If I want to harvest her, I have to get on top of my game. Northern Lights has been already stunned by under and overwatering, as well as slow growth due to nitrogen deficiency. All of that is a great learning opportunity for me. The more mistakes I do now, the better understanding of a plant I have in the future. And it's better to make mistakes with free seeds rather than with genetics that you have paid a pretty penny for. Week 12 is here, and I started with a pre-harvest defoliation of Gelato. And I will be harvesting King's Juice. I would have harvested her earlier, but I simply didn't have space for that. That is why I got myself a super cheap 2x2 tent that I will use as a dry chamber. I had to reshuffle my setup a bit, and while doing so, I lost 4 days of GoPro footage. I placed the 2x2 tent horizontally on top of my 2x4. My grow room is actually also my office, and I do not have a lot of space, and every centimeter counts. Let's look at the King's Juice one more time before I chop her. Buds are nice and dense, as well as covered with sticky trichomes. I grew King's Juice from seed to harvest for 80 days. She was short and bushy and easy to grow. I did not face any major issues and would definitely grow her again. If you remember, I did not lollipop her at all. You can literally still see her first true leaves, and they're followed by some tiny and larvae buds that do not look so yummy. I'm hanging the whole plant upside down and will keep her in a dry tent for 7 to 14 days. Let the trim begin, and for that, we're gonna need some weed. So this is the King's Juice, the one that I didn't train at all. As you can see, there are some small buds on the very bottom. And those buds are the target of my experiment. I will grow it so you don't have to. Lollipopping is when you remove bottom third of plant's growth to promote upper growth. Growth? But what if you let those little nugs grow? Won't they turn into dense and rosinous buds? I found an answer fairly quickly. Yeah, I have seeds in my crop. Female plants can seed by pollinating themselves when not harvested on time, or it can be caused by stress from light leaks. I will be honest, I did not respect sleep cycle of my autos at all. Since they can flower under 24 hours of light, I figured that my girls wouldn't care if I sometimes turn lights on during their night period to do some gardening maintenance. Back to lollipopping. I took one of the largest branches of the plant and expected it lower growth, aka side branching. And it's absolute trash. These are super tiny, fluffy buds that I wouldn't even smoke. And I know that because I did smoke them and I wish I didn't. And to make it even more decisive, I found seeds only in the tiny little trash buds. All top buds are free from seeds. Lesson learned, tree blower third, there are no treasures in it. It took me 1 hour to trim whole plant. That was actually not so much hassle. After a month of cure, weed came out to be amazing, smelling like wine with some citrus in it. It reminds me of mulch wine. Buds are also very dense and very sticky. And now, it is time to answer two most important questions. What is the weight of the top buds? And what is the total harvested weight? $66 grams is good. However, I'm not gonna use all of this. I separate all material into 3 categories. The top 90% of the harvest goes to my jar and into cure. 10% of middle meh buds will be tested right away. The rest is trim and garbage buds. I will use them for dry sifting and making butter. Week 13 has officially arrived. I ran out of veganic nutrients that I was using. Despite that I still have Northern Lights for at least another 2 weeks, I think veganic fertilizer from Atami brand passed all my tests. If all plants would finish within 11-12 weeks as promised, I could say that they can cover 100% of nutritional needs of 3 autos. Who would think that the tester pack could go so far? Since I still want to provide enough resources for my last plant in the tent, I started with yes, yes, and yes. Yet another free tester from Cannabis Expo that is called Epic Boost. And it's made for hydroponic systems, but nutrients are nutrients, right? The main difference is that Epic Boost is salt-based and can be immediately absorbed by plants' roots. The downside is that you're supposed to pH your nutrient solution, which I did not do. And the soil will absorb a lot of salts, and this is not good for microbiology in the soil. But I will address it after the harvest. Day 90 and I harvested Gelato plant. Just like King's Juice, it's going directly to the drying tent for 7 to 14 days. It is stream time. I know for a lot of people it's stream jail, but I kinda enjoy it. This is the last time I take a look at my creation before it's gonna be destroyed in the fire. And even though Gelato had a decent amount of small and larvae buds, it took me only 1 hour to finish. Gelato, from Fast Buds, is a short bushy plant that stacked its main colas nicely. Buds are long and covered with trichomes shine from top to bottom. Smelling and tasting departments also did not disappoint. I can 100% confirm that the name of the cultivar speaks for itself. It is indeed smells like ice cream. And now, let's answer 2 of the most important questions. What is the overall harvested weight? Take some of this, but this is freaking good bud. And what is the weight of the top bud? Just like the last time, I will only jar top 80 or 90% of the harvested material. Currently, I use 2-liter or half of a gallon jars from IKEA. These jars can hold up to 50-60 grams comfortably. I also use thermometer humidity meter with Bluetooth. I had those cheap Amazon thermometers, but very quickly they start to show results that might swing 4-5 degrees either way in Celsius and even up to 10% in humidity. Let's get back to trimming material. I will take 10-20% of mid-quality meh buds and give them a very rough and close trim. I will cut most of the sugar leaves and even parts of the bud itself. But for the purpose that I have, it's absolutely fine. And what is the purpose, you may ask? I will press them into rosin. I know that wouldn't be necessarily the best quality. However, if the meat buds press well and the rosin schmack, I will know it is worth to press good stuff too. I'm using a pre-mold where I will pack 15-ish grams of wheat, and I'm gonna use 100 micron bags. Pre-mold is not 100% necessary, but it makes packing so much easier. My press is set up to 85 degrees Celsius or 185 Fahrenheit. Timer has 3 minutes on it. It is super important to apply pressure slowly when pressing rosin to avoid blowouts. 3 minutes that material spends in the press are not 3 minutes under the maximum pressure. The first 60 seconds I use to go from 0 to 1 ton. I will let the material heat up and to loosen those trichomes and let the goodness to ooze out. During the second minute, the pressure goes from 1 to 2 tons in the first 30 seconds, and then from 2 to 4 tons in the last 30 seconds. After that, 2 minutes to 2 minutes 30, I max out the pressure, and the last half of a minute we spend at the maximum pressure. Always a good idea to let fresh rosin to cool off before you try to collect it. Hot rosin will be stringy and gooey. Yeah, try to leave that up. But even if you collect rosin for too long, it still can warm up and stick to parchment paper. One and a half grams of rosin from buds that I wouldn't even consider smoking is an awesome result. The rosin smells amazing and it hits like a truck. I will 100% grow gelato again. Well, actually, I dropped another gelato seed as soon as I harvested this plant. Another small bonus for trimming with a sift screen is, well, it's dry sift that is collecting in the under tray. I will take my time to collect it and wait. It is almost 1 gram. That's super decent considering it is just a side effect or side product of trimming. Week 15. Wow! Northern Lights is indeed XXL. But to be absolutely fair, yield of a plant depends on multiple factors. Genetics can get you only so far. Environment is a huge part of it. But we can also compare Northern Lights with other plants that grew side by side. King's Juice and Gelato yielded 15-60 grams of top shelf bud. I can see Northern Lights push 100 grams. One of the most important factors of yield is actually veg time. I don't understand how not so many people talk about it. The longer you veg your plants, the more you will harvest. I always thought it was very misleading when seed banks put expected harvesting grams on the back of the package. Let's say you have 2 of the same plants and you veg one for 30 days. You will harvest less in 99 times out of 100 than the same plant that you veg for 60 days. Northern Lights started flowering last, so she had some extra time in veg that allowed her to grow more branches. And she also had extra time for those branches to thicken up. I checked trichomes on this girl, and she'll be ready for harvest in no time. This is the last 7 days of this autoflower run. 105 days since 3 free seeds hit the soil. I used free sample of veganic fertilizer from Atami brand, 1 packet of fertilizer from Greenhouse Company, and half of the bottle of hydroponic nutrients. I supplemented soil biology with seaweed, mycorrhiza and alpha boost. This is my most efficient and low-cost grow. I did buy a used 2x4 setup that consists of Spider Farmer tent, lights from Mars Hydro, and exhaust fan from AC Infinity. I also purchased a bag of fresh soil that I mixed with reused soil from a previous run, as well as I bought 4 10-gallon fabric pots. I even calculated that I used approximately 300 kilowatts of energy. That translates into around 100 euros on my energy bill. I estimate the grand total of this whole run, including purchasing setup, fertilizers, boosters, and energy, to be around 500 euros. Considering that I expect the total harvest to push 200 grams, I think this is a great success. This was my second run and first time growing autoflowers. I will keep experimenting and learning to find the easiest and most efficient ways to grow wheat. And it is trim time again, one last time. Well, at least this season. This is the biggest plan, and it took long 15 weeks to finish. Like always, I start with cutting single branches for the ease of handling. You see, when I trim, I never touch flowers, so I don't have to wear gloves. I hold buds by the stem and work my way up, from bottom to top. Northern Lights XXL was a very promising auto. Unfortunately, the biggest girl has the weakest bud. I can barely see trichomes. Buds are very fluffy and airy, and also very unfriendly to trim. I spent 3 whole hours working through material that I don't think I will enjoy that much. This is when trim gel became a real thing. Despite being XXL planned, the biggest bud ended up to be less than 2.5 grams. And the overall weight was 93 grams. I will separate it into 2 jars, 50 grams of top buds and, well, the rest of it. Dry sift on the bottom tray was also very unimpressive, extremely small and light. I didn't even bother to do a good job collecting it and just threw myself a tiny peach in a jar that most probably will be sprinkled in my next joint. I'm sure it has to do with me not feeding the girl properly and timely, but I'm just learning and I will still make mistakes. I am making mistakes in the name of bro science, and so you don't have to.